What's up, guys? Welcome to the show with the worst name in the world. Here's the Friedemann Findeisen show, where I answer questions on songwriting and producing while wearing different shirts. Before we start, I'd like to address one thing, and that is, when is the next artist series coming out? Well, as you may be able to tell from the bags under my eyes, I have some other shit to take care of first. I'm very sorry, you guys. I know it should have come out a long time ago, but I promise you it's going to be awesome. I'm already writing on it, and it's 40% done, and I'm really hoping to be releasing it this or next week at the latest. So it's going to be a good episode. I'm very proud of it already. For the info that I found out, I think is very, very cool. I think you're going to enjoy it, but you'll have to wait just a little bit longer. Very sorry about that, but that's just how it is. Moving on to our first question, which comes from Kevin. He says, "Hello, I just need basics in songwriting and info on how I can sell music and maintain my copyright as a songwriter. That's all for now." You know, I get emails like that a lot, actually. It's like, pay attention to your punctuation for once, please. And as for your question, that's like, you could have just said, please tell me everything you know, and make it short. So this is a lot of questions, and it's big questions too. Like, I've spent my life trying to answer those for myself. I'll just answer one of these, if that's okay for now, and that is maintaining your copyright as a songwriter, which is something that I hear about quite a lot, actually. A lot of people have written in about that. You know, how do I protect my music? What do I do about that? When I started out, that was a big question for me as well. And I think my first demo tape that I ever produced, before I released it, I sent it to myself in a sealed envelope to make sure that if anyone ever like stole my music, I could pull out this envelope and be like, aha, I was here first, and be able to like show the print on the stamp. And, you know, I don't do that anymore. It's kind of silly, really. If people want to steal your music, they're just going to steal your music. And it's just called inspiration, right? That's just what it is. If you want to go sue them, fine. Once you've released it, you've got the copyright on it anyways. You don't need to go to a person of law or someone like that to prove that it is your music. If you've released it under your name, it is automatically your music, right? It is already automatically copyrighted. That's just the law, right? You don't have to do anything. You don't have to sign anything. You don't have to send it anywhere. It's automatically yours the second you release it in some shape or form. Even if you send it to a person, to someone that you know, you still got the email to prove that it already existed at that point in that version. So that's number one. You already got the copyright. Secondly, really don't worry about it. Really, please. If someone's going to steal from someone, it's not going to be from you. It's going to be from Katy Perry or Rihanna, right? No one's going to steal your music. And if they are, fine. That's good publicity for you. Really, honestly, don't worry about it. It's just, it happens all the time. It's not called stealing, it's called inspiration, and it's going to be fine. No one's going to take your money away. It's not a competition, right? So don't be all about, oh, it's just about the money. I need to make sure my work is fine, and don't live in that fear. I've done that too. And it's just keeping you from writing great music and releasing it to the world to make the world a better place. That's the way I see it now. So really don't worry about it. Drop this fear and just write the fucking music, god damn it. The next question that we have comes to us from Adrian, and he says, "I think one of the biggest things that is concerning is finding ways to be stable in this profession as a songwriter slash producer slash artist. I want to do this full time, but I find it challenging with no clear path to success, like going to college to get a job. What is your take on this?" Well, first of all, there are many paths to success. There's SoundCloud, there's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. There's so many platforms that will help you get noticed in this world. In this day and age, that's really where the magic happens, is online, right? On social media, unfortunately. Yeah, it's still possible to gig somehow, but you're always just going to reach a couple of dozen people if you're lucky, right? If you are even going to reach, reach those people. I think the one goal that we have with our music, if we want to make it successful and if we want to make a living out of this, is to get noticed. And by that I mean we have to find an audience. So that should be your main goal. Find an audience and grow your fan base. So it shouldn't be about making money or getting a record deal or anything of that sort, because that's all going to follow once you have the people that follow you. So make that your number one priority. Make sure you create great stuff that people want to have in some way, shape, or form, right? So create great YouTube videos, have a beautiful website that people enjoy and share with others because it's so amazing. A good book to read on this is The Purple Cow by Seth Godin, which I've mentioned a number of times on this YouTube channel already. But it's just about being remarkable and making something that people want to share. And if you have people who share your stuff, who are excited about what you're doing, that is gonna, grow your audience even more. So the goal should be get an audience. The hows, there's really two rules that I have for myself to get to this audience. And the first one is don't work hard, work smart. This is something that I think is not taught enough in schools or anywhere for that matter. And it's really a mentality of the last century to think that if you work hard, if you keep yourself busy, you're going to lead a successful life. And the way I see it, that's really not the case. It is totally possible to work half an hour every day and be very successful and make a lot of money, if that is what you define as success. So it really is possible. Don't work hard, work smart, whatever that may mean for you. But I think it's a really good paradigm to live by. Really think about this for everything that you're doing. Am I doing this because it's really helping me? Or am I just doing this to keep myself busy, to get the feeling that I'm doing something? Because that's something that I've done personally a lot. And when I look around me, and especially with musicians, especially with artists, I see that happening a ton. People work. But what comes out of it? At the end of the day, very little. So think about what you're actually doing and how that's helping you improve your career and your reach to people. How is that helping you grow your fan base? Secondly, I have this rule for myself when it comes to making business-related decisions that I call the 3 Ps. And I think I heard this in a Dutch workshop some time ago. So I'm not sure if this is invented by some Dutch guy. If it is, I think it's brilliant. It's the 3 Ps. And the idea is the 3 Ps are payment, publicity, and pleasure, or the Dutch equivalent of that. So whenever I make a decision in my business, I make sure that I always strike at least 2 of these 3 Ps. So I want to have at least pleasure and payment. So I want to be paid well and get the pleasure out of doing this job, or I want to get the publicity and the pleasure, but never just one or none of them. So that's kind of how I make my decisions nowadays. And in the beginning, I just did everything. But looking back at the projects that I did when I started out, I kind of wish that I just would have followed the 3 Ps, because you do a lot of stuff that you shouldn't have done, that just really doesn't help your career, that's just there to, make you feel busy, in other words. Which brings us to our last question, which comes from Rozaimi, I believe is how it's pronounced. And he says, what are some bits of music theory that I need to know so that I can start on songwriting? If you followed this YouTube channel a little bit, then you might know that my stance on music theory, and that I don't believe it's necessary in order to write great songs. And I know this because the first 5 years of my career, I had no clue about music theory at all. And when I listen back to those songs that I wrote back then, I really don't think that they're bad. I really think they're good songs that I could still listen to today. I still see problems with those songs, but I don't see them with the music theory, but much more with other things, mostly in the arrangement and stuff like that, in not sounding modern enough. If I had to pick a couple of things that I do think are necessary, that you have to know when you want to write songs, it would be these. First of all, you should be able to play all 12 major chords and all 12 minor chords on whichever instrument you play. So if you're a guitarist, that's going to be very easy because you can just move a barré chord up half steps to get to all those different chords. Same with minor chords. On the piano, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because you have to kind of learn the different chords. If you're a rock musician, you might even be fine just learning all the 12 power chords. In that case, you just need to learn 12 chords and not 24. Learning power chords is you know, if you're writing rock, that's pretty much all the chords you're ever gonna need. That's the chords that I played with when I started out. And you're obviously, after a while, you're just gonna get bored with those chords. You're gonna make up your own chords, and you're gonna find some cool sounds that way. So don't really think about, is this major or minor? If you write, you're gonna find that out by yourself, really. One more thing that I think is important is time signatures, and there's really just two that you need to know about, and that's the 4/4 and the 6/8. And in case you don't know what those are, the 4/4 is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you can count like that over your song, you've got yourself a 4/4. And the other one that's important is the 6/8, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for example, what's that song? Earned It by The Weeknd. That will be in 6/8, and it's got a very different feel than 4/4. 4/4 is very, well, it's the standard time signature really, and 6/8 is a little bit more relaxed, and it's not often found, for example, in rock music and those kinds of styles, because it has something. It has the triplet feel within it, which means it has a little bit more jazz to it. A little bit, it sounds a little bit lighter, is what I'm trying to say here. So that's hopefully answers your question, Rozaimi. Moving on. Lastly for today, we have a question from Jonathan, who says, how do you find a certain unique style in your songwriting that is original, but still fun to listen to as well? I don't want to sound like every pop artist out there, but I still want my music to be catchy and relatable. I got similar questions from Ioic, I believe he's called, and Daniel. So this is a question that I also get quite a lot, actually, especially following my artist series. And this is a big question to answer, obviously. Again, I'm not gonna attempt to answer the whole thing, and you know, by the end of this, you're probably gonna have more questions than when we started. But the way I see it is that music comes in 3 circles, right? These concentric circles. And so the middle circle is pop music. This is really the mainstream of music, and this is where all the other styles are kind of drifting towards. And so this would be like what you hear in the charts. And this is what you're referring to as catchy and relatable, Jonathan. Then the next circle, that is a little bit bigger than the first, is the indie circle. So that's where you have music that is partly commercial, that a lot of people like, but it's definitely got an alternative flair to it. So this would be stuff like James Blake or, you know, any one of those bands, really, that are a little bit odd, that not everyone likes, that are just a little bit more niche. And then the outer circle is really the experimental stuff. And I call this the new wave circle, right? So this is experimental music. It's the really extreme stuff like grindcore, you know, that used to be a thing. So the way I see it is a style usually pops up in one of those outer rings and then slowly moves to the center. So for example, dubstep started out as noise. It was really just about making these really crazy sounds, and it was really experimental, and not a lot of people listened to that. And then it slowly moved to the center, so that we had it in a Justin Bieber track eventually even. And but it's mostly stayed in that middle circle, in the alternative indie sector of music. And I think it goes with like this with most musical styles. So the lesson that's hiding behind this, I think, is that if you're trying to create something new and original, it's best not to listen to the charts, which is a weird thing to say, coming from me probably. But a lot of people will tell you to listen to the charts to write music like that. I think you should listen to the charts a little bit to see what's going on at the moment. But I think it's equally important to find your ideas elsewhere. Because if you're just covering the charts, you're just going to sound like the charts, and you don't want to sound like everyone else. So the best place to look for inspiration, I think, is in the really crazy experimental music. And I have a lot of bands on my top 100 list that are really insane. And if I show it to people, they're like, whoa, this is, I don't get this. This is just weird. So that's the stuff that I listen to. I love listening to really fucked up music. And that's where I draw most of my inspiration from, coincidentally. So really do that. It really helps you free your mind. And just listening to a style for a long time. I remember there was a band called Nothing Face, which have a really strange, weird way of writing songs, kind of a metal band. So if you're not into metal, that's probably not for you anyways. But if you are, check them out. Nothing Face, really bizarre album. The album was called Skeletons, I think. Cool album. And when I listened to them for a while, it just freed my mind because they did so many crazy things that I never would have dared to do. And it allowed me to do some crazy things with my structures or with my chords. And especially their harmonies are just fantastic for a metal band. So that really opened up my mind. And in a way that a pop song never could have, you know what I mean? So Max Martin, you know, started out as a metal writer, right? He sang in a metal band. And you can hear it in his songs, right? His pop songs very much have that anthemic metal structure and the big boomy choruses. That's the Max Martin sound that everyone loves. So also he draws inspiration from that. Hans Zimmer, right? Producer and writer of such movies as The Dark Knight and Lion King, started out as a synth guy, right? He was an electro head. Just he loved playing with synths, and that's what his music sounds like. Well, not so much The Lion King maybe, but all of his other stuff totally does. And now he's really known for that electronic sound. That's the Hans Zimmer sound, the big, boomy electronic sound. So really, if you're interested in creating your own sound, I think the best way to do it is really listen to the stars that are out there, the artists that really do their own thing, that sound like no one else does. And I was thinking of maybe doing a top 100 of my favorite artists of all time that no one really knows about. If you guys would be interested in that, let me know in the comments. That's it for now, I think. And hopefully next time we see each other, it's going to be probably one more Friedemann Findeisen show, but hopefully after that, we're going to have another artist series. So guys, thanks for watching and for staying interested. It really means the world to me. So thank you, and see you next week. Cheers.